Hello everyone, and welcome to this first web meeting dedicated to NGI LEDGER, the human-centric venture builder program funded by the European Commission under Horizon 2020. I'm Thomas Chamyadira, and I will be your co-host for today's webinar. With the first round already underway, NGI LEDGER is set to be a game changer in decentralized technologies. Thank you for joining us today, and we are all excited to inform you more about LEDGER. We invite you to interact with all of us as there is a dedicated question box on the right of your screen. Here you can ask all your questions and we will address them at the end during the Q&A session. For sound issues, please dial the number that you see on the screen with the access code below. I would like to introduce our three speakers in the consortium. We have Andres Sanchez Sandaza of Funding Box. Hi, Andres.
Hi, hello, Thomas. Hi to everyone. Pleased to have you around.
Secondly, we have Dr. Dennis Jaramil Royo, who is CTO and co-founder of Dime.org.
Hi, everyone.
And lastly, me, Thomas Chamyadira, Innovation Ecosystem Designer at BlueMorpho.
Thanks, Thomas, for the introduction.
You're welcome. Just to get the webinar started, I would like to ask your first question. That is, have you already started your application to the Ledger Open Call? As it is an interactive session, you'll notice the question pop up on your screen. Just select yes or no as of now, and I'll let you answer for a few seconds. Okay, we should have all the questions in, all the answers in. Now I'd like to present the consortium to you. The three of us will each introduce our companies. Andres, would you like to begin with introducing Funding Box?
Sure. Well, at Funding Box, we like to think in ourselves as a community of entrepreneur makers and software developers, designers, and any kind of maker. We have a community in our platform of over 23,000 people that is involved in certain kind of projects, developing technology. We work in a lot of Horizon 2020 projects, and through our platform, we have plenty of communities in different aspects like robotic, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and so on. And we have mostly hubs in Poland, Denmark, and Spain, and we are coordinating Ledger. Thank you.
Thank you. As for Jaramil, could you present Dime.org?
Sure. We are a foundation based in Amsterdam, but mostly busy with the internet. We do free and open source software, and we have been elaborating around the concepts of Ledger, especially for the human-centric and free and open source software character of this fund. So we will never stop emphasizing that the free and open source licensing is a viable business model and a great way to build on community efforts. And we will coach you through the minimum viable product development through 9 months and organize the boot camps that are run not only for refining your technical concepts, but also human-machine interaction and ethical aspects of the project. So you can count on us for expertise on distributed ledger technologies, blockchain encryption, data management, and GDPR compliance. And we will have a research in residence role in your team, meaning that if you are beneficiary of the fund, then you can rely on us as being constantly following your project and advising you on what technologies you can use to develop further, as well perhaps provide examples and proof of concepts in case you need them. We will not be developing your project, but we will be actively coaching you so that it's a success within 9 months. And I'm open for questions at the end, and we'll go through also the boot camps later on in the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaramil. As for BlueMorpho, We are based in Paris, France, and have an office in Berlin. And we are the industrial disruption partner of leading companies working in deep tech, digital, and smart systems with the goal to accelerate innovation. Through ecosystem designing, we work with large corporations, private investors, research organizations, startups, SMEs, and institutions to achieve disruptive innovation. In Ledger, Brewmorph will provide business mentoring, and we bring our network plus our experience conducting specific actions in decentralized technologies to help you with your business models, fundraising, and sustainability. I'd like to go back to the very first question that I launched earlier on, which disappeared in 2 seconds. Have you already started your application? Not everyone got a chance to answer, and so I'm launching the question again for your answer. Great, thank you very much. I'm glad we were able to relaunch the question. Continuing with the webinar. Here's the agenda. What is Ledger, the 12-month venture builder program, technical mentoring, business mentoring, the application process, and at last, a Q&A session. Andres, would you like to tell us what is NGI Ledger?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. Well, Ledger is a program that is within the umbrella of the Next Generation Internet initiative of the European Commission. This is an initiative that tries to build a new internet where people is at the core, where a more human-centric design internet is built, where privacy becomes crucial for this new internet, where somehow data is back in the hand of the users, of the citizens, instead of having these big corporates handling our data and making business with it. So this next generation internet is well, I guess we all partners believe that it's a great initiative that is trying to change the internet for good. In particular, in this case, when we talk about Ledger, it's about building. Basically, we are looking for projects that are working on decentralized technologies, using any kind of technology. It can be DLT, but also peer-to-peer or blockchain. But basically, what we are focusing is on supporting and funding projects that are trying to go a bit more to the paradigm of decentralization. That at the end it means that you know, the power is not in the hand of a few ones, but it's distributed, and that as I say, citizens get back to control their data. So within this program, we are offering, as it says here, I think the details will come later, but maybe the sexiest hook is that we offer up to 200,000 euros equity free. So for any entrepreneur, you know, that is really sweet because when you are an entrepreneur, you somehow dislike to give part of your company. But it's also true, it's worthwhile to say that you can even apply, as we will say later, not even having a company, just as a team of individuals. But the point is that we kind of support people who develop solutions in the open software space that can help to build a better internet. We are going to support 32 projects. We already had the first open call, and we are already working with the 16 first selected projects. You can know them in our community, in Ledger community, that we will provide the link later on. And it's good for you to know so you can have a better understanding of the project we are looking for. Well, we are doing this webinar because the second and last open call is on the go. We open it the 1st November, and it will last until the 31st January 2020. So this is the time, it's the last opportunity, and we are here to tell you a bit more about the program so you get to understand it well and that you can do a proper application. Next. This is a bit the main characteristics and the main details of the offer we are making. This is a program to build MVPs, so it's about building products. So that's important. This money is not to do business development or marketing, but to develop software. And you will get access through our partners, through Dime mostly, to premier class technology. I mean, they know most of the technologies that are on the space. They will advise you to choose the right one and to, you know, guide you through the way, so you get a bit of you know, the crucial technology on the space. That is linked to the mentoring that my colleague Jeremy will tell you later. Business mentoring, access to a pool of investors and early adopters. We are betting for projects that build open software, but we are of course wanting that those projects last long. So maybe we like to say that we are trying to do something else that Silicon Valley. We are not following that kind of a scheme, but we of course want the projects to build a better internet, better solution, and they become sustainable business, and that they have, you know, they are able to grow, you know, make an impact, let's say. And we of course will help you with, you know, to reach the outside world through PR support. We will help you and guide you through key events, and somehow we even will help some of the projects to find pilots so they can test the technology with other players and you know, validate their assumptions in a much more scalable way, with, let's say, relevant partners of the ecosystem. So in summary, just in 3 sentences, is the funding up to 200,000, a venture builder program of 12 months where you get business and technical mentoring support, and then a third branch where we help you to raise money, to get PR, and to build pilots with other players. That could be a good summary of it. Next. Jaromir?
Yeah, I can explain this. So this is roughly the plan for your 9 months. If you are beneficiary, then we will have various events. We are reviewing this plan, also learning from what we could learn in the first period. So perhaps the welcome bootcamp that you see at the very beginning will be a bit longer, so that we spend more time to know each other. In general, that period, the first quarter welcome and work plan, will be a very important period to attend the bootcamp for all the team and understand how the work lays out, the methodologies, and so on and so forth. Then you see that there are milestones, the M0, 1, and 3. These are milestones that mark basically not only the financing, but also our assessment of your progress and our exchange. So you see that after the first quarter, we have 3 installments of the payment and 3 milestones. In particular, the third one is very important. It's about the mock-up, which doesn't have to be a functioning product, but it has to be an iterated product that you actually have tested on the ground with your target of participants. Then on month 6, we have a very important delivery, the minimum viable product, which needs to be a working prototype, more than a prototype, actually something ready to be brought to market, of course, with a little bit more iterations and work, but technologically sound, proven, and ready for you to actually really start having the first participants getting into the system, whether it's a platform or a software running it. And the last installments are basically on month 9 and month 12, and this will be part further selection. So of the 16 beneficiaries, only 8 will be selected for their market readiness, but also if you really want to accelerate to a venture capital pitch, then you will go to work more closely with Blue Morpho, who will follow you anyway through all the process, but in this phase will be more intense the work that you do with them. And again, only 8 of the 16 beneficiaries will be selected or can choose to go forward into this stage. So it's 9 months. It's very intensive. A boot camp can take a full week, especially the most important one, the work plan, and then so between in the second quarter and the first quarter. And you have to consider that at least for the team that you put forward, you will be full-time on this project. And we will advise you also to get more resources in terms of people or of equipment in case tech needs it. But what is most important is the humans really being active and waking up in the morning and thinking about your project, how to push it forward through the day, through the month, through the whole acceleration period. So keep in mind this calendar and take it very seriously when you engage Ledger, because this will not leave you a lot of free time. Thank you. So yes, little words. This is more or less what I just said. We will have a researcher in residence with your team. We will have a contact point at Dyn. Actually, we have a lot of expertise in different fields. And when you have questions, we will also be able to involve the right experts. We have also an offer of experts that you can pay with vouchers in case you want to pick out of our organization in different fields. We will give technical mentoring, which at least, at the very least, will mean a meeting, a stand-up meeting, a short meeting every week to make sure that you have everything you need and maybe more topics to be researched or solved, problems to be solved come on the table. And we will have 4 boot camps. We are just assessing. This is run by my colleague Federico Bonelli, who is organizing all the boot camps. We are assessing if they will become 3 and make one perhaps longer and more intensive, but more or less you can expect to have 4 full weeks into a location to actually experiment with your idea and see if it actually has some grip. If it's taken up by people in different contexts. So we do the bootcamp usually in a city or in a countryside where you are there to pitch also to locals your idea. And this way we analyze also the iterations and we use a sort of lean methodology to really assess your solution. Next slide, I think, is about the verticals. I can spend some words here too. Also, if you like to add something later, Andres, we have organized the work program across 5 main verticals. This is a jargon in the industry to indicate a field of application for your technology. So you have to imagine that your minimum viable product is really a product, is not an horizontal component that you can apply to various contexts. These sort of tools can be part of your tool belt, but when you come for Ledger, you come really for developing a product that stays and sits nicely into one of these 5 pillars: health, economy, mobility, public services, and energy and sustainability. If you think that your product doesn't fit in one of these 5, there is always the opportunity to file it as open innovation. At the time of the application, you will be asked to classify your product and will be also judged and analyzed in the context of these verticals. What do we mean by innovation in each of these fields? Please have a look at the work program PDF that is downloadable on the website that has extensive analysis on what we think will be human-centered innovation into one of these fields.
Thank you, Jaromil. I'm going to talk about business mentoring. Business mentoring uses the lean innovation which in Ledger will have teams interact with their ecosystems to learn from potential partners and to receive customer feedback. It is important to note that the business mentors themselves cannot know everything, but through the lean innovation approach, we challenge your ideas and put you in contact with the right people, making a concrete business out of your MVP development throughout Ledger. We do this by leveraging our network of more than 60,000 contacts in 24 different verticals, boosting your visibility. Our lean innovation approach leads to two major objectives. The first one is we define and validate with you your business model. And secondly, we check your market feasibility. When you are able to show market traction and business value, the next step is collecting relevant financing. As was explained before, the first 9 months are focused on MVP development, but we are there for you, challenging your ideas and working on the business model. And then fundraising and accessing the market becomes the next step. If there are two words you should keep regarding business mentoring, they are agile and pragmatic. Now we have a second question for you. Which of these verticals could you apply for? Please note that right here you will only have access to 5 choices. If you fit in open innovation, you should answer the question after this one. I will launch the question now. All right, we have a few answers in. Just by the way, at the end of the webinar, you will receive a recording with all the information. I will launch the next question, which concerns open innovation. Would your application fall under the category open innovation? All right, thank you for answering. Moving along. Andres, could you tell us about the application process?
Sure. Thank you, Thomas. The first very important recommendation is to read properly the guide for applicants. That's the crucial document where you will find all the details and all the information we're going to give you here. In the first call, we have the problem of some people that didn't read it properly, and they did the application process, and maybe they didn't fulfill the eligibility criteria, so they spend time for nothing. So there is some eligibility criteria that is crucial and that you need to really fulfill to be able to be evaluated. So that's a crucial step. And maybe one of the, how could I say, maybe even challenging election criteria is the related to the team composition, because you need to have at least 3 different people with 3 different profiles. From these 3 people, you need what we call a researcher, that is basically an academic researcher, someone with research experience, usually academic. The minimum requirement is that it has done the master that give access to the PhD, or that it has published any paper in any research news magazine, let's say. So then you need a developer. When we mean a developer, we're talking about software developer, someone who has been doing coding and who is able to help you with the, let's say, with the MVP build. So we don't want that you just come with a team of 2 people and you say we are going to track the development of the software. No, we want a full team with academic researchers. So that means that basically the product has some background in research, a software developer, someone who is able to do it, and a business development or entrepreneur that there is a bit more the generic profile, but someone with the experience pushing products, pushing a project. So that we think that with the three profiles you can push a project from an MVP until market reach and sustainability. That is a bit what we are looking for. The team can be composed of at least one entity or a consortium of two. But as I say at the beginning, you also can have your team can be composed by a team of individuals. So you don't even need to have a company for that. Still, you need the three profiles. Okay. If you are applying with an entity, it has to be legally established in the EU or in some of the associated countries. You have the list of associated countries just in case you have doubts. In the guide for applicant, you have a link to it. And then we are also empowering and indeed evaluating really positively teams where women are making and leading the team. So the more women we have in the team, that will be positively assessed by the evaluation process. Next. Yep, this refers to the kind of projects. As I say, these are what we call technology transfer experiments that need to have a research component and that they are relevant to the topic of privacy by design and distributed data governance mostly. At the end, it's about the development, testing, and validation of technical products and also of their economic viability. And it's quite important and good for you to know that we are looking mostly projects working on open software and open licenses. So the idea is that other people can build upon your solution and that your solution is good for everyone and can be used by others also. So that's also something that we valorate quite positively and that we want to see in the projects. Next. This is the application process. Well, as we say, this is a program funded by the European Commission. So what we assure you is that we are going to be really transparent and that this is not about supporting friends or anything like that. If you even contact us and you want to talk with us, we are not going to be able to promote your project among the others because the evaluation is really transparent and it's done by external evaluators. First, we do what we call the eligibility criteria, where you need to fulfill certain criteria as the one I mentioned before. Then if you pass that and you get a threshold of points that we give to the project, you have more information about that in the guide for applicants. Then your proposal gets evaluated by two external evaluators. They are well-known experts and they will assess and give you points to your proposal. With that, we made a ranking with the projects that got more points, and then we do what we call the consensus meeting. That is an internal meeting where we debate each of the projects and we shape the final ranking of the projects that will be called to the jury day. The jury day is a physical event where there is usually, the last occasion was 33 teams, where we chose 16, go to a place. Last year we did it in Amsterdam, probably this year too, still to be fully decided. It will be around May, so the process of applying and being selected is really quick. So you may be sending your application in January, you will be invited to the jury day around May. And if you get into it, you will be starting the program in June. So, everything quite compressed. That's one of the beauties of this kind of programs where there is not such as good as red tape and bureaucracy as you may find in other more traditional Horizon 2020 programs. So that's the kind of process. Yep. Later, I guess you may have doubts. We can see them in the Q&A. Next.
Yes, just something I want to say because the question has been asked repeatedly in the question box. Ledger is looking for 32 projects. 16 teams have already been selected. This is the second open call looking for the remaining 16 teams. So this call is only for the next and final 16 teams. That being said, what to remember, the open call opened on the 1st of November 2019 and will be open until the 31st of January 2020. As Andres said, you may apply on the link that you see on the screen, ledgerproject.eu. There you'll find all the information you need regarding Ledger. You'll also find the link to the application form as well. I'll just leave it for next to seconds down. And now, just you may follow us as we'll have another webinar on the 17th of December, and the topic will be on the verticals and what you can benefit from Ledger. If you have time, please register and attend. Otherwise, register anyways, as all registries will receive the recording of the webinar automatically, as is the case for this webinar. As for our contact information, you may contact Andres at this address that you see on top, andres@fundingbox.com. To contact Dine, there's a special address, dine-ledger@dine.org. And to contact Blue Morpho, you may contact me at shaunyadira@bluemorpho.com. On the right, we have our Twitter handle. There's the official website, as was shown in the previous slide. And we also have the Ledger community that you can access on the link on the bottom right. There you can get in touch with everyone involved in the Ledger project, including the current teams. Now it's time for the Q&A session. I remind you that the question box is on your right. Some questions have already been asked, but keep asking away. Otherwise, you may listen to the questions that have been asked right now, and we will address them one by one. All right. So, first question that we see is, just give me a second to make this work. What if we have our own blockchain technologies that we want to use? Is that okay? The answer was all sure it's okay. Next question is about free and open source software. Can you explain what you mean? Does that mean that the tech should be free to use by the other parties, or can we license it? And the answer was that it means that we endorse free and open source licenses as defined by the Free Software Foundation. If you don't plan to use such a license for your creations, this call is not for you. There are many other funding calls, funding projects independently from licensing. How many people are on this call? 82 attendees at the moment. I'll go down further to find more questions. Now the question is, now we are concentrating on creating an environment for engineers to work on creating a new generation of chips. The money that you allocate is enough for this project, but 200 million euros. What to do? Would perhaps Jeremy have an answer for this, or Andres?
I'm using text to answer the ones I have an answer for. In this particular case, I think it's bound to the organization of the project. If the project is bigger than the Ledger fund, then it could just segment its phases and use other funds. Ledger is not an exclusive fund, so it will give you visibility and apply to further steps. What we want from Ledger is a minimum viable product to be realized.
Okay, thank you. Next question was, does this mean that companies which already have a prototype and a business plan are not eligible. The question is they are eligible. Next question is how long are each boot camp and where will they take place? They're different the boot camps take place in different places in Europe, and they usually take 3 to 7 days depending on the boot camp itself. Moving on to the next question. Is this the first quarter of 2020, January to March, or the first quarter of the program starting when? The first quarter of the program, what you would have, I'm trying to think what this referred to, but applications close on the 31st of January to have an answer by a decision by April, and the program would begin in June, July. Around that time, it will be announced further to the state. Next question. Where are the meetings and the boot camps? Are the accommodation and traveling costs covered, or would we need to cover expenses out of the equity-free budget received? The answer is they will be announced as we usually combine them with a conference and interaction with local municipalities and company. Expenses are included in the funding budget and teams have to arrange by themselves. About the economy vertical, in the work program document, it seems to focus very much on finance. If the solution is more about food supply chain, should it be open innovation? Tricky question. We are aware fintech takes over very easily the vertical, but that's not human-centric, so there is space for more. We thought of mutual credit systems and complementary currency for this vertical. Food, depending on the nature of the MVP, could go to health, open innovation, or economy. Next question. Let's see. We are focusing on education as a vertical. This includes both higher education institutions, mostly public, as well as lifelong training, which belongs mostly to the private sector. This seems borderline with the definition of public services. Can you provide some guidance or insight? Yes, education can fall well into public services. Do we need 3 people per team, or can we just have 1 or 2? 3 people is the minimum. Description of each member is in the work program. In our team, we have 2 people based in the EU and 1 person established outside of the EU. Are we eligible? Yes, EU citizenship is not required, but your project to perhaps as a legal entity. For all those that have arrived late to the webinar, as you are registered to the webinar, you will receive a recording of the webinar once it ends. Can the team also include additional members from outside of the EU? Yes, we have actively advocated for this fund to accept people from outside the EU. We love diversity. Just make sure the product and or service company is based in the EU. Do all solutions need to be free and open source, including front ends, DB, schemas, etc.? Or can it be partially, specifically smart contracts and ledger structure? The answer is software needs to be free and licensed. Assets may be licensed in different ways. Services may be paid, etc. There are plenty of opportunities to develop free and open source based business models, and we expect beneficiaries to do that. Next question. If different stages of development are allowed, wouldn't the early stage ones be in a worse position to get an award? We look at feasibility and capability of the team to get to the MVP in 9 months. Conditions may vary, of course. Next question that I'm reading is, what is the role of the researcher in residence? Does he or she need to provide a final document? What about open source code? should we leave it open? Is it mandatory, or only something that's considered better to have? All the researchers will help you as an advisor and consultant expert. Free and open source licensing is mandatory. We don't fund proprietary software in Ledger. When is the jury day? The exact date will be announced, but you should expect it sometime in April. But wait for the announcement of the date. How many times are we going to visit you? Will all teams be visiting as well? We need to put this in the budget. Not all members of the team is required every time. And expect to visit us, well, should I say, you'll see us at the boot camps. So expect times, depending on the announcement of the boot camp, of the date of the boot camp. Can our team apply this time as we were not selected at the first call? The answer is yes, you are free to reapply. Okay, similar question to the food supply person. Does a product for facilitating a transparent and privacy-preserving rental market for housing fall under finance or open? The vertical, to be exact, is economy, and the answer says it all depends on the details. Finance economy is more about currency and credit systems. But this is something to see within your application and how exactly you plan on implementing your solution and your technology. Our participant involves traceability, whereby we design and develop sensors and we use our own blockchain technology to track information captured by them. It's all related to climate change and carbon footprint. Is that more closely related to open innovation vertical? It sounds as if it's related to energy and sustainability or health, or open innovation, depending on the details of the project that is submitted. We created soft for SMEs. Can we apply? If you have a specific human-centric product and you can license it as free software, then yes. Just repeat that question. We created SMEs. Next question. Companies can be for profit, but the product has to be open source licensed. The answer is sure. We want companies to make a living and thrive so they can be for profit, and you'll be helped to develop a business plan for a viable business. Looking at the next question. Researchers, should they be engaged full-time or part-time? Would part-time researchers be possible as well? The answer is it's a sort of full-time job. There's no mandatory guideline, but we do advise you to take a full-time commitment. Could funds obtained from Ledger be used to subcontract? Yes, you can use funds as you like. EU project paperwork does not apply.
Thomas, I have an answer also for perhaps better by voice for some questions that are repeating.
Yes.
One is what is the criteria for selecting researcher or a researcher profile in your team? Please refer to the Marie Curie guidelines of the European Commission that define a researcher, and know that we are not really strict on the academic background. If a person has demonstrated the publications, even out of the academy, even as software, but of research nature, so also new knowledge, then we can consider it a researcher. And another question is, what are these three roles? Explained in the work plan. Mostly we refer to three different reference roles in the team, as one can be a product developer, a designer, another one should be a researcher with some academic background to validate the concept, and another one should be a technical person, a sort of CTO, a technical officer that can actually follow up the delivery. And as others have asked, you can also subcontract. So the paperwork of European research projects does not apply to you. You are the beneficiary of a fund, and you have much more freedom and less paperwork to do when reporting your expenses. What counts is that your concept is a minimum viable product that applies to our verticals, that is a sound product, that you can deliver it, that carries human-centric values, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to end the webinar at this point. What we will do is we will answer the remaining questions and join it and attach it to the video that you will receive of this video, of this webinar. I would like to thank Andres and Jaramil for joining me today in presenting the first webinar about NGI Ledger. There will be 3 more webinars, with the next one taking place on the 17th of December. We will stay in touch, definitely. Details on the screen. Feel free to contact us at any time if you have any questions. Alternatively, there is the ledgerproject.e website that also has a wealth of information to inform you on the project, the application process, and other questions. We are here for you. And without further ado, I'm going to say have a good afternoon and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care and happy hacking.
Yeah. Ciao.